Story 1. My 28F boyfriend's 30M ex hid a note about his cleaning, dating habits right before they broke up that I just found. How do I talk to him about cleaning habits without him feeling like I'm using his ex's words against him? I'm throwing away the account because I don't want my boyfriend to find this. I posted this elsewhere, but I thought this subreddit could help, too. I 28F and my boyfriend 30M, who we'll call Steve, have been together for 2 years and have been living together for 8 months. While cleaning our apartment, I stumbled upon a note hidden at the back of a cabinet. For context, here's what it said. Dear Steve's future girlfriend, I know it's you reading this because he'd never clean back here. I'm putting this here because I'm leaving him soon and want to warn you about him. He will not clean. He will not listen. He will make everything feel like it's your fault. It's not your fault. He's just an incompetent man. I'm leaving him, and I suggest you do the same. Best wishes, Natalia, name changed. After reading the note, I showed it to Steve to hear his thoughts. He immediately ripped it up and told me to ignore it, saying she was unstable and untrustworthy. I pointed out that not finding the note for 5 years since they broke up was a red flag, indicating he never cleaned that spot, and that he had been cleaning less since I moved in. He argued that it wasn't a problem before the note and accused me of letting his ex manipulate me. The argument went in circles until I decided to spend the night at a friend's place. Steve has been a great boyfriend so far. He gets along with my family, gives me gifts and flowers, and always expresses his love. He's not wrong that the cleaning issue hadn't been a big deal before, but the note made me realize it had gradually become a concern that needed addressing. He later texted me, apologizing that I felt the need to leave but also calling it unfair to put a note over our 2-year relationship and leave him and our pets alone. Now, I'm unsure of what to do or believe. I'm contemplating reaching out to Natalia, as her real name is unique, so I think I could find her. Steve thinks I should come back home and let it go, insisting that his past shouldn't affect our future. I'm worried that I could be overreacting, but I'm also uncertain about what to trust. Edit. I realized I didn't clarify enough about the cleaning situation, so I'll add it here. When we moved in together 8 months ago, the cleaning was 50-50. Since then, he's been doing less and less, and now it's more like 70-30ths, maybe 60-40ths on a good week. I've had to remind him to do simple things like bring his plates to the sink or take out the trash, things I didn't have to do before. The dishes would pile up, and I've even found moldy leftovers on the plates. I'm not confrontational, so I would just ask him to fix it when it came up. The note made me reflect on this more and try to have a full conversation, but Steve got stuck on the fact that I was listening to his ex instead of him, and he wouldn't listen to my valid concerns. He thinks I'm letting the note cause confirmation bias, so no matter what he says, I'll think he's in the wrong. I didn't leave him permanently. This all happened yesterday, and I only spent one night at a friend's because I felt our conversation wasn't going anywhere. I'm heading back today and wanted to get some advice before I do. Edit 2. I appreciate all the advice. I'm heading back to our place now with a plan. First, I'm going to apologize for bringing up the note without considering his feelings and acknowledge that it's tough to have an ex's message found. That said, you're right that I've been letting the cleaning issue slide. I don't want to be in a relationship where I have to constantly remind him to clean. The fact that he didn't clean the shelves during his move from his ex's place and that it hasn't been touched in 5 years, makes me take the note seriously. I don't want to throw away 2 years, so I'm going to ask him to help me set clear cleaning expectations and divide chores. I'll make it clear that cleaning is a deal breaker for me, and it's up to him how he wants to respond. I'll try to update you all. Again, thank you so much for the advice. Update. I took your advice and tried to have a calm discussion with Steve. When I apologized for confronting him with the note, he took it as an admission of guilt and refused to listen to anything else. I had prepared a list of specific instances of not cleaning, as many of you suggested, but he said I was using lists just like his manipulative ex did. So yeah, the warnings about the crazy ex being a red flag were true. When I realized the conversation wasn't going anywhere, he even tried to stop me from leaving. That's when I knew it was over, and I left immediately. 2 years gone, but I'm glad I got this wake-up call before it was too late. I'll let him cool off and then ask my brother to come with me to collect my things when he's not there. He has a strict work schedule, so it should work out. I'm planning to leave a note in the same spot I found the other one, advising me not to show it to him. If he doesn't learn his lesson about cleaning, it'll come back to haunt him. All he has to do is clean. The biggest surprise was that I didn't reach out to Natalia, she reached out to me. Steve borrowed a friend's phone to call her, yelling that she was still ruining his life. The fact that he memorized her number and called her just confirms that he was the issue, not her. Natalia found me on social media and wanted to check if I was okay, especially concerned that he might try to manipulate me like he did with her. I thanked her for the note and for saving me time. We're meeting for coffee on Thursday afternoon. I want to thank you all again for the advice, especially the person who shared the Love is Respect website. I took the healthy relationship quiz after our conversation, and the results weren't great. You all were right about how he was slowly leading me into an unhealthy relationship. For now, my friend has offered me a place to stay until I find a new apartment. I have emergency savings and a decent job, so I'm lucky to be in a good position despite this messy breakup. I'm just trying to focus on the positives and be grateful for that. I just posted my final update separately. Thank you all for everything. Final update. My 28F boyfriend's 30M ex hid a note about his cleaning, dating habits right before they broke up that I just found. How do I talk to him about cleaning habits without him feeling like I'm using his ex's words against him? As you can tell from my original post, I like to address things right away. It was a mistake to show him the note immediately, but acting quickly this morning was the right move. It allowed me to protect my pets. First, I want to address comments saying I ended a 2-year relationship over a note and chores. No, I ended the relationship because when I tried to create solutions for an unequal situation, his response was to yell and convince me the only problem was me. The final straw was when he physically stopped me from leaving the house after shouting at me. That behavior is not acceptable, and no one should stay with someone who handles conflict that way. The actual update. Last night, I texted the post to Natalia, and she thought it was great. Like some of you, she asked about the pets. For context, one of the things Steve and I bonded over was our love for small creatures. It's part of why I thought he was such a great guy. He took such intricate care of his lizard, so I believed he'd take care of me too. I was very wrong. He has a lizard that he bought before we met, and then we bought 2 frogs together. I have a snake that I brought when I moved in. I initially planned to wait until he cooled down to grab my things and the frogs and snake, thinking he'd never harm them, but Natalia changed my mind. She mentioned that he could get destructive when angry and was worried about the safety of my pets. I realized I couldn't wait, so I arranged a meeting with the landlord early this morning. Last night, I had a long conversation with Natalia over FaceTime. She's a lawyer and informed me that in our state, landlords are required to let me out of the lease in cases of domestic violence. She also told me that his yelling, gaslighting, and blocking my exit were all forms of abuse. It's hard for me to accept that, but the relationship quiz on the Love is Respect website helped me realize it more clearly. His constant messaging and control over what I wore and when were also signs of abuse. This morning, Natalia offered to come with me and my brother to speak with the landlord. As soon as the landlord heard the word lawyer, he agreed to let me break the lease, though I still have to pay for all of August, even though I'm leaving a few days early. I thought that was fair. He also messaged Steve, saying the apartment needed to be empty for emergency maintenance all day today so I could pack my things. Steve responded that he'd be at work all day and wouldn't be home until 6 p.m. When I arrived at the apartment, it was a disaster. He had smashed the dishes I brought with me and left the shards scattered on the floor. My clothes were ripped up and thrown around the room. It was disgusting and heartbreaking. He left his lizard alone but opened the tank doors for our frogs and my snake. Thankfully, the frogs were still in their enclosure, but my snake had escaped. This made me the most furious, as she could have been hurt by the broken plates. I'm incredibly lucky that she was just hiding in a corner of the closet, and I was able to safely pack her up again. All my belongings are packed, and I'm writing this as my brother drives me back to my friend's house. Natalia told me she left 3 notes, 1 in the cabinet, 1 on the underside of the vacuum, and 1 in the crumb catcher of the toaster. While we were there, we checked to see if the notes were still there. The 1 on the vacuum was, but it looks like Steve did clean out the crumb catcher at least once in the past 5 years. He never mentioned finding a note during our conversations, so it surprised me. Natalia and I decided to leave the vacuum note as it was and replace the 1 in the cabinet. I wasn't comfortable leaving my name on a new note, so I added a handout on healthy versus unhealthy relationships and a QR code to the quiz that opened my eyes. I'll put it in the comments. I'm not sure if I can share an outside link. Natalia believes that if Steve didn't find the notes in those 5 years, especially after the move, he probably wouldn't find them again. I agree, especially since he found 1 note but didn't clean the rest of the house to check for more. Steve doesn't make sense to me anymore, and seeing the state of the apartment made me realize I never truly knew him. The Steve I thought I knew would never put animals in danger, but now I see I didn't know Steve at all. To those saying it's pathetic that I ended my relationship because of chores and Reddit, I encourage you to reflect on the subtle ways that mistreatment can begin. This Reddit thread opened my eyes and gave me the tools to leave safely before it escalated further. I also scheduled an appointment with a therapist. I'm very fortunate that my job has good insurance, so I should be able to work through this and focus on boundaries and my tendency to please people, so I never find myself in this situation again. To those wishing Natalia and I would get together, we had a good laugh about it. Natalia is engaged to a wonderful man who cleans, listens, and reflects. She mentioned there's a phenomenon where after breaking up with a terrible ex, your soulmate can quickly follow. I hope that's true. Regardless, I believe I've gained a good friend out of this, especially since Natalia is also a snake mom. This is my final update. I hope my experience teaches you that mistreatment doesn't start immediately. First, there's love bombing, gifts, and sweet words. Then, slowly, they test how much you'll tolerate. You should never have to tolerate anything, especially moldy dishes. TLDR. After ending things due to his behavior, Steve trashed our apartment and let my snake loose, but I managed to break the lease and retrieve my belongings with Natalia's help. Now I am safe and looking for a new place to live. Story 2. I stupidly let my mom borrow my car in Houston and now she's refusing to give it back and I'm stuck unable to work. My mom's car got rear-ended, and while she was waiting for her insurance to decide if they'd cover the repair, I decided to let her use my car. We talked on the phone and agreed that I'd lend her my 2013 Toyota Corolla LE from July 23 to August 2, which was a Friday. The reason I agreed was that she told me she could start working from home on that Friday and wouldn't need a car as badly. But I made it clear that I needed my car back on that specific date because I'm in the process of starting a small auto shop, which is about 40 miles away from where I live. I know it was a bit foolish, but I wanted to be a good son and help my mom. Plus, at the time, I didn't need a car since the paperwork for my shop wouldn't be done until the 5th or 6th of August anyway. The problem is that it's now August 13th, and she still hasn't returned my car. I've called, texted, left voicemails, the whole 9 yards. I even ordered a Lyft ride to her house to get my car back, only to find that she'd locked it in her garage and refused to answer the door when I knocked. I called the police, who showed up, knocked on the door, and told me that since I allowed her to use my car, it was a civil matter, and I'd have to send a 10-day letter of demand before I could report it as stolen. The issue is that I'm a 24-year-old who just invested $7,900 into my garage startup, and I can't afford to wait around for 10 days without being in Katy to make money. I have 2 trusted mechanics who left their jobs to work with me, and they haven't been paid or given work yet because I can't get to my shop and set up the server and shop management system. I'm down to my last $200, so I can't afford to keep taking Lyft rides and running around town searching for her. I feel like the biggest fool for letting myself get into this situation, and I just don't know what to do. I have my letter of demand drafted, but I'm worried that during that 10-day window, she'll damage my car or run it into the ground. I still owe $14,000 on it, and the oil change is due at 58,450 miles, which I know she won't pay to have done. All that talk about blood being thicker than water is just a load of nonsense. Update. I stupidly let my mom borrow my car in Houston and now she's refusing to give it back and I'm stuck unable to work. I followed your advice exactly. I sent the demand letter and waited. The 10 days ended yesterday, but she still wouldn't return my car, so I went downtown to the HCPD HQ to report the vehicle as stolen. I got her on the phone with a sergeant who explained that once I decided to press charges, it would become felony possession of a stolen vehicle or unauthorized use of a vehicle. He told her that if she was caught driving it or found with it at her house, she would be arrested and charged, and I wouldn't have any say in the matter. Once I sign that line, whatever happens next is out of my hands. That got her moving, and she left the car with my spare key in the glove box across the street. I asked an officer to meet me at the location just in case she got aggressive or damaged my vehicle, but thankfully, she didn't. She had my car since the 23rd of last month, but it's back with me now. She put well over 2,000 miles on it, and the maintenance light is on, but for now, I'm just glad to be done with this. I want to thank all of you who gave me good advice or the metaphorical slap I needed. As for my shop and getting there, one of my mechanics lent me his old beater, so the shop is up and running, and we're already swamped with jobs. We've got 7 satisfied customers and 5 others waiting on parts. I'm glad everything worked out once I took a step back and analyzed everything. Story 3. My 22F fiancé, 25 meters, wants his father to check my hymen tomorrow night before I get married. My fiancé proposed to me about 8 months ago. We planned a relatively small wedding, which is just 2 days away. Everything has been going great. He seems perfect, and we are deeply in love. Both of us are virgins. He wanted to save it for marriage, and while I wasn't particularly concerned about it, I agreed. He mentioned earlier that, in his family, the father checks the virginity of the bride the night before the wedding. I initially laughed it off because it sounded like a huge joke. But, to my surprise, he was completely serious. He wants me, the night before our wedding, to participate in a small ceremony where I would have to open my legs so his dad could check me, with him, his brothers, and his uncle watching to confirm I'm still pure. I told him there was no way I would do that, but he started begging me to go through with it, saying how important it was to him. He admitted it might be a bit embarrassing for me but insisted that his mom went through it and that it would prove how much I love him. He added that since I'm still a virgin, I shouldn't have anything to hide. I left, and he was crying, making the situation feel overly dramatic. I'm seriously considering calling off the entire wedding and cutting all ties with him. But at the same time, everything else between us is genuinely perfect, and I don't want to spend my life with anyone else. It's very important to him and his family, and that's making me question what to do. I'm currently staying at a friend's house and might spend the night here. Tomorrow would be our last day as an unmarried couple, and I'm in full-on panic mode. Update. My 22F fiancé, 25 meters, wants his father to check my hymen tomorrow night before I get married. First of all, thank you so much for all the replies. I didn't expect this to get so much attention. I've read almost all of them. Special shout out to the person who claimed this was fake just because I write like a man, whatever that means XD. Also, thanks for all the gold and silver, it's appreciated, although if you're thinking of spending money, maybe consider donating to charity instead. This morning, I went and talked to him. I made it clear that his father is not going to inspect me, and he needs to respect that. However, he was stubborn, insisting that it had to happen, and even accused me of lying about my virginity. I tried to stay calm and rational, but he wasn't having any of it and just got angrier. I told him that if he truly loved me, he would stand by my side and tell his father no. In response, he slapped me and said he didn't need to prove anything. So, I ended it and left him. I'm now back at my friend's place, feeling miserable but also indulging in some pizza, which is pretty fun. So, yup, thanks again, everyone. Story 4. Am I the asshole for telling a girl at the beach that her bikini top was crooked? So I'm at the beach by myself and there's a girl a couple of meters next to me wearing a bikini. Her top is a bit crooked, exposing one of her nipples. Now, in my country, being topless at the beach is not at all unusual, but this seemed unintentional and I was pretty certain she wasn't aware. So as I went to the water I passed her and just quickly said, I'm translating here, excuse me, it's really none of my business but your top is crooked, I just thought you'd wanna know. Now I wasn't trying to be creepy, or hit on her or anything. I just thought that she might wanna know she was flashing people unintentionally. But now I realize it could maybe have come off that way, with me being a guy in my mid-30s and her probably being early 20s. That didn't cross my mind until after. She didn't say anything, she just looked a bit uncomfortable and I kept walking as soon as I had told her. Am I the asshole? Update. She has now taken her top completely off, so I guess she has no problem showing her nipples anyway. Just for the record, I'm not trying to police anyone, I don't care if you're wearing a burqa or absolutely nothing. Story 5. Yesterday I froze during sex and my girlfriend asked if we should stop, I said yes and she backed off. I've never been treated like this before. I am 23 years old and have experienced rape twice and sexual assault. These events have significantly impacted my relationships. 2 days ago, while my girlfriend and I were being intimate, disturbing memories surfaced, and I froze. She noticed and asked if everything was okay, but I couldn't respond and began to sweat. She got off my lap and asked if I wanted to talk, but I still couldn't speak. Then she asked if she should leave the room, and I gave a small nod. She took her phone from the table and left. This was a new experience for me. No one has respected my boundaries before. It feels strange and different. The next morning, when I woke up, she had made breakfast and left a note saying I could call her anytime if I wanted to talk. She came over after work, and I thanked her for respecting my space. I was nearly in tears, and she became emotional too, saying that, no, means no, and hesitation also means no. She assured me that she would never knowingly hurt me. I've never been treated this way before. My parents were unkind, and my previous relationships were similarly negative. She is different. She has been my support during tough times, cooks for me to ensure I stay healthy, leaves encouraging notes around the house and is genuinely amazing. I want to show my gratitude and express how much she means to me, but I'm unsure how. I'm also still processing how much my feelings matter to her. To show my appreciation, I'm planning to write her a letter and arrange a small picnic for us, which I know she'll love. I also plan to propose in the future, just not right now. Thank you to everyone who shared their experiences and advice. It has been helpful. For those who doubted my experiences, I hope you find peace. Thanks again for the support and kind comments. Story 6. Mike 32M, best friend asked if I would be her 30F sperm donor for her surrogate, and I am in love with her but she has no idea. So for a bit of background, we met in college and have been best friends since then. We hooked up once years ago. It was a drunken exchange and I honestly chalked it up because we were both drunk and in the right place. She got ovarian cancer that was stage 3A. Few years back and survived and has been in remission, however she had to have a complete hysterectomy. She had mentioned a year ago she was considering surrogacy. She had told me she planned to use a donor as she has been single for a while. The thing is, I am in love with her and I have been for years, but she has no idea. I know at one point she had feelings for me, but I was seeing someone then, and out of respect for my GF at the time she never acted on it. I feel like before I give her an answer which will be yes, I should tell her how I feel. I want to make her dream of motherhood come true and I am honestly touched she thinks so highly of me, she wants me to be the father. Regardless of how she feels, I will still donate, and if she doesn't still feel the same way, I will love her as my best friend. Guess I am trying to find the best way to ask her and came to Reddit for advice. So how should I handle this? Update. Mike 32M, best friend 30F asked if I would be her sperm donor for her surrogate. I am in love with her but she has no idea. I appreciate all the feedback. Most of you were kind, but there were a few who suggested I needed to be more assertive and manly. Anyway, the general advice from my real-life friends was to be honest with her. We have brunch every Saturday because she does yoga on Sundays, so we met up this morning. I could barely eat, and she noticed something was off. She got worried, thinking I might have bad news or something worse. By the time we went for a walk, both of us were anxious wrecks. I sat her down and told her everything, how I realized I had been in love with her for years but had been too scared to admit it. I explained that I kept quiet because I didn't want to risk our friendship. Her face went pale, and a range of emotions crossed her features before she began laughing uncontrollably, tears streaming down her face. I was stunned, feeling as if nearly 12 years of friendship were slipping away. Then she started crying, sobbing softly, and gently tapped my chest. Amid her laughter and tears, she admitted that she was also in love with me but had kept it to herself, fearing it might ruin our friendship. We hugged, and I told her there was no one else I'd want to have a child with but her. We spent hours talking, and I just got home. We've decided to focus on our relationship for now, wanting to build it up before taking any further steps. I understand this isn't a fairy tale, and things might not work out perfectly. However, I'm convinced that if soulmates exist, she is mine. Thank you all for giving me the courage to share my feelings with her. Story 7. Sleeping with multiple women whilst only pursuing one romantically. So, I'm a 27-year-old woman dating a 32-year-old man, and we've been having an incredible connection. We can talk for hours, especially in person, and we've had 5 amazing dates. From the start, he was honest about sleeping with other women. I thought things might change after we hooked up, but they didn't. I got hurt, so we discussed it. He explained that while he can date multiple people when it's mainly about sex, he can only pursue one romantic relationship. This is still tough for me to grasp because I can only focus on one person when the connection is so strong. Here's my question. Is this a common mindset among men? Can someone date multiple people while focusing romantically on just one? Or am I being naive and he's just keeping his options open? He's always been honest with me, but I'm struggling to understand. Any advice would be appreciated. Update. Thanks for all the comments. To clarify, we've been dating for only 3 weeks. He's told me I'm his only romantic interest, but he wants to continue seeing other people for pleasure. We hooked up on the 3rd date, and the next 2 dates were about talking, cuddling, and getting comfortable with each other, no sex. He's looking for exclusivity and a relationship over time. He's been single for 4 months and always finds time to see me despite his busy schedule as a full-time lawyer. I asked if he'd consider stopping seeing other women while we get to know each other, and he said he'd stop if it meant I would continue seeing him. He's fine with me seeing other people as well, as long as we're getting to know each other. This isn't a situation where he can sleep around but I can't. Hope this clarifies things. Story 8. My friend got offended that I wouldn't hook up with her because of her size. Am I wrong? My friend 25F and I 28M have been friends for a few years. In the past, we would hang out and enjoy each other's company. We aren't close but sometimes it's just nice to hang with someone to kill time or just not be alone for the day, and she feels the same. Well, she asked me if I wanted to hook up and have sex but I told her no. She asked why and I was honest. She's very overweight to near obese levels. She's a sweetheart but I just can't do it. I told her as politely as I could but she got mad. A hookup is literally about physical attraction, It's not an emotional thing. But how can I do a hookup with a woman who I'm just not physically attracted to? A few days have passed, but she occasionally makes passive-aggressive comments about it. For if we are texting and asks if I'm having plans and I say no, she would say, "Well, you would tonight, but you said I'm too fat, so that sucks." She keeps cornering me to apologize, but I don't want to be bullied for being honest. Am I wrong? Story 9. My mother bathed me until I was 15 and it haunts me. I've never spoken to anyone about this, so I don't know how other people will view it, but I was extremely sheltered and babied my entire life. My mother and father broke up at a very young age but still lived together until I was around 10, so I never learned how to sleep alone until I was 11, since my mom didn't want to sleep with my dad and we didn't have enough bedrooms in the house. I feel sick typing this out, but we used to spoon each other, but until like a few days ago I thought it was just hugging. And I'm sure there was no sexual intent behind it, but everywhere I read it's a sexual act. I also ended up crying myself to sleep every night as a kid. I don't know why, and I only learned this wasn't normal when I was older. It might have been because I kept moving around and my mom would yell at me when I couldn't sleep. All of this amongst other stuff ended up causing me to become incredibly dependent, and as such it left me not able to take care of myself at all. I was never taught to do many basic tasks, including bathing myself. The thing that led me to finally bathing on my own was starting to cut myself so that I could take baths alone. I don't know why I couldn't just ask. I guess it was something that happened my whole life, so I felt too awkward to stand my ground. This shit genuinely doesn't leave my mind, the idea that I was and still am to an extent so dependent on my mother. Trust me, I love her, and she's a better mother now than when I was growing up, but at the same time, in a way, I resent her for not teaching me anything, as it's led to a lot of embarrassment situation in life to the point of contemplating suicide. I hate this. Story 10. I stole over $20,000 in a very creative way in the 90s. I worked at a fast food chain in the 90s while I was in high school. At that time, the chain was phasing out denominational gift certificates, $5, $10, and $25. The system was simple. If you spent more than half of the certificate's value, you'd get the change back in cash. For instance, if you spent $5.50 and used a $10 certificate, you'd get $4.50 in cash. My manager was responsible for destroying the old certificates as we transitioned to new gift cards. One night, while closing, I discovered 2 boxes of certificates deep in the dry storage room, certificates that were supposed to be shredded. So, I took them, threw them in the dumpster, and later retrieved them. I found $1,000 25 certificates, $1,000 10 certificates, and $500 5 certificates. Without expiration dates, the total value was $40,000 in fast food certificates. Over the next 3 years, my girlfriend and I visited every location in our state and the next 4 states, using the certificates and getting change. We didn't keep a spreadsheet but became adept at knowing how to order items just below half the certificate's value. By the end of the first year, we began saving the change, which eventually helped me buy my first car for $7,800 in cash. A kiddie cone, which cost $1.05, often generated $3.95 in change if you used a $5 certificate. We ended up discarding a lot of kiddie cones. Edit. This post has received a lot of attention. Here are answers to some frequently asked questions. We could visit 10 to 12 stores in a day by driving around for 5 to 6 hours. Both of us used gift certificates at each location, so it wasn't very labor intensive. The only cameras in the stores were at the cash registers and the takeout window. The manager never suspected who took the certificates and never treated me differently. Each certificate had a generic PLU, like all $25 certificates were PLU number 756. When we stopped selling the certificates, we were instructed to continue honoring them since they were prepaid, not coupons. Eating too many ice cream cones got old quickly. Story 11. Am I the asshole for putting dinner away and playing video games after my girlfriend came home drunk? My girlfriend and I live together. I am 29 and she is 26. We've lived together for 6 months. I have been very busy at work and with life, so yesterday I was looking forward to cooking dinner for us and relaxing. We had this planned all weekend. My girlfriend is more of a social butterfly than I am, so she had plans yesterday morning with her friends. She had brunch at 11, and I was planning on having dinner ready by 6:30. I expected her to have a few mimosas at breakfast, but nothing too crazy. Maybe she'd get home and take a nap before dinner. Brunch turned into going to one more bar after around 1 p.m. Which then turned into more bars. Which became bar hopping all day. She was texting me insisting that she would be home in time for dinner, but by the way she was talking, I could tell she was drunk. I started making the pasta around 5 p.m. Around 5:30 I saw on her Snapchat story that she was doing shots at a bar in a completely different neighborhood of Chicago. I didn't want to be the boyfriend who nags, so I let it go. I was getting seriously annoyed because I was thinking, oh great, she's going to be hammered for the nice night we had planned. At 6:30 she was not home yet. I saw on her location that she was now at a different bar from where they were taking shots. I ate and asked my friends if they wanted to play PlayStation, so I packed up the food, put it in the fridge, and hopped on PlayStation with the boys. My girlfriend arrived home around 7:15 p.m., clearly drunk. She asked what I was doing and what about dinner. I said she was late, and dinner was done but it's in the fridge so she can heat some if she wants. She apologized for being a little bit late but gave me a half-hearted laughing apology saying, you never know what to expect when the girl gang goes to brunch. I said that's fine but I now have other plans. She called me rude and went to bed. We haven't talked much about it today, but I can tell she is being passive-aggressive, so am I the asshole? Edit. Oh, and she also went and said my dinner didn't look very good so she ordered Taco Bell. Story 12. Am I the asshole for calling out my bill for staring at my chest? In my daughter's chest, my brother-in-law, let's call him Dan, visits my husband, his brother, and me now and then, about every 2 to 3 months. Every time we see him, Dan talks to me while staring at my chest. I'm in my mid-50s, decent looking but nothing to stare at. On the rare occasion my daughter joins us for the family visit, Dan stares at her chest too. She is 23. The last time he visited our home, I made a motion with my fingers from my chest up to my eyes, my eyes are up here, gesture. He did not acknowledge this and kept staring. I grabbed a sofa cushion and hugged it against my chest for the rest of the evening. For reference, I was not exposing my chest in any way and was wearing a hoodie. I expressed my offense and frustration to my husband, let's call him Jerry. Jerry was upset and did not realize this was going on repeatedly. He said he would have words with Dan. Dan has heart issues and is in his mid-60s, so it's difficult to find a good time to talk about sensitive subjects as we are all afraid to upset him. Finally, Jerry called his brother and told him how upset he was and how disrespectful it was towards me that he would stare at my chest. Dan blew up at my husband and denied it. He called me a liar and questioned how I could say this happened. He told Jerry to take control of your wife and household, be a man and don't allow this to happen, etc. Jerry hung up on him. 2 weeks later, Dan called Jerry again to ream him out for not being a man, and to tell him again that I'm a liar. Dan proceeded to tell their sister, let's call her Debbie. She then took Dan's side. Debbie called Jerry telling him what a liar I am and how I'm trying to drive a wedge in the family. We are all in our 50s and 60s. Isn't this immature? For background, Dan has a history of disrespecting women openly and blatantly. My husband has mentioned this many times and it is also quite obvious by his attitude in conversation. My sister-in-law Debbie won't speak to me or respond to my text or email messages. We used to have a nice friendship. We are the only relatives close by enough to respond if Dan has another medical event. He has alienated many other friends and neighbors. Am I the asshole for having called out Dan for disrespecting me and my daughter? He has alienated me, my kids, and Jerry. I could have honestly guessed he would do this, but I was just so fed up with him doing this to us in my own home. Story 13. Am I the asshole for refusing to let my brother's kids stay at my house after they trashed it last time? I, a 32-year-old woman, live in a nice, cozy home that I've worked hard to maintain. My brother, who is 34, has 3 kids, ages 6, 8, and 10. A few months ago, he asked if they could stay at my place for the weekends because he and his wife needed a break. I agreed, thinking it would be nice to bond with my nieces and nephews. Well, that weekend turned into a nightmare. The kids went wild. They broke several things, including a vase that was a gift from my late grandmother, spilled juice on my white couch, and even scribbled on the walls with markers. I tried to manage the situation, but whenever I told them to stop or tried to set boundaries, they completely ignored me. When I told my brother about the damage, he just laughed it off and said, kids will be kids. He didn't offer to help clean up or replace anything. I was hurt but didn't make a big deal out of it at the time. Fast forward to now, he's asking if the kids can stay over again because they want to go on another weekend trip. I told him no, explaining what happened last time and that I didn't want to deal with that again. He got really upset, saying I was punishing his kids for being kids and that I was being unfair. Now my parents are involved, saying I should be the bigger person and help out my brother. They say the kids are sorry and just want to spend time with their aunt. But I'm still traumatized by the last time they were here. Am I the asshole for refusing to let them stay at my house again? Story 14. My 22M vegan girlfriend 21F wants me to get rid of my cat. I can't believe I'm about to type this but here we go. I've been dating my girlfriend for 7 months. She's amazing and we're super compatible in a lot of ways. She is an outspoken vegan, and she made it clear at the start of our relationship that it was important to her that any potential partner had similar cruelty-free values. I, already being a pescatarian, had little difficulty transitioning to a fully plant-based diet. My girlfriend was proud of me for going cruelty-free and everything seemed well. We became the vegan couple on our college campus. Then there is my cat, Mittens. I've had her for 3 years and I adore her. She's such a sweet and cuddly cat. However, my girlfriend was always a little apprehensive around her, and she blamed it on not growing up around cats. After a while, we sort of made a tacit agreement to mostly hang out at her apartment instead of mine, so Mittens never really came up again in conversation. Fast forward through all the quarantine stuff. My girlfriend and I have spent a lot of time together during this pandemic and we've started talking about taking our relationship to the next level. We began seriously looking at either buying a new apartment together or having one of us move in with the other. However, after a lot of talking and planning, my girlfriend sat me down and dropped a bombshell on me. She said that with this next phase of the relationship, she did not see a future with me unless I was willing to give away Mittens. She said that she believed owning a cat is unconscionable for vegans, because they hunt mice and eat meat, and because the very act of owning a pet is a violation of vegan principles. I was stunned. I told her that I was not willing to give up Mittens and that I was reducing harm as much as possible by buying reputable brands of cat food. Plenty of vegans own cats and think along those same lines. My girlfriend got mad and said, "How much flesh does your cat eat? How many animals died to make all that food? Would you be okay with that being human flesh?" I got mad and told my girlfriend that I would have appreciated her telling me about her cat's opinions before we got serious. She went on and on about cats killing animals. I ended the conversation there. I was so angry that I left my girlfriend's apartment. And I snuggled with Mittens when I got home. However, the mood soured a bit when my girlfriend sent me a link to a Reddit thread advocating for the extinction of domestic cats. I think I am not going to get rid of my cat. However, it pains me to think that an otherwise wonderful relationship could be ending because of a difference in ideology. I don't even really understand where my girlfriend is coming from because, like I said, a lot of vegans own cats. Now granted, cat ownership can be a controversial topic in vegan circles and I probably would not have gotten a cat if I had been vegan at the time, but I have Mittens now, and she deserves to eat. Yes, I've researched vegan cat food, but Mittens has some digestive issues and my vet strongly cautions against it. I've talked to some of my vegan and vegetarian friends and they all think my girlfriend has lost her mind. Some have suggested that it's not about Mittens and my girlfriend just wants an excuse to end it. They probably don't understand why I haven't broken up yet, but I care about my girlfriend so much. I'd hate for this bizarre curveball to be the end of a beautiful thing. I want to try and work something out. Where do I even go from here? I will not compromise on Mittens and I don't think my girlfriend will compromise either. My 22M vegan girlfriend 21F wants me to get rid of my cat. Update. TLDR, my GF is a passionate vegan and wants me to get rid of my beloved cat because cats eat meat and kill mice. First of all, let me say thank you to everyone who offered advice. There are over 7,000 comments on my original post and I have dozens of PMs. Frankly, I'm still pretty overwhelmed with the magnitude of the response. I did my best to read almost everyone's comments but I couldn't get to everything. I would also like to preempt this post by saying, as many users pointed out, that my GF's extreme views on domestic cats are not representative of the vegan-vegetarian community as a whole. I do think that, sometimes, new vegans can be a little overzealous. In reality, most of us are just doing the best that we can to not hurt animals. I did not expect to generate a big debate in the comments. So, we broke up. I would never, ever give up my cat Mittens. Many users said that this situation was about control, not veganism, and looking back, I do see a pattern of control on my GF's part. I was blind to it, I guess. I called my GF and said I was not willing to give up Mittens under any circumstances, and given the recent issues we'd had, and our incompatible views, I thought it was best that we parted ways. I said she deserved a partner that shared her values. She then asked if we were breaking up, and I said yes. There was some anger on her end but otherwise, the situation went better than I expected. So, yeah, that's it. Oh, and several users did ask to see a picture of Mittens. I have uploaded one to Imager. Story 15. Am I the asshole for asking my wife to spend all her savings? I'm a 34 years old M married to the love of my life, a 33 years old F. My wife is kind, nurturing, and motivated in her career. She does a lot for me at home since I work long hours. We married 4 months ago. Dated for 8 years. We're both easygoing, have the same sense of humor and rarely argue. I make 4x more money, I'm in healthcare, but she makes a good salary as well. Since I make 4x what she does, I tend to pay for most things: dinners, weekend trips, mall shopping, which I do not mind. With bigger purchases, we pay for things together in proportion to what we make. She's usually okay with paying her share of things, 1/4 of the rent and groceries, and will sometimes offer to pay for dinners and dates. She's very close with her best friends, she has 4. They're great people, but they're basically attached to the hip and talk daily in a group chat. Which is fine, everyone needs a support system. I have similar friends. She and her 4 friends have combined savings accounts together for investing in something together. They've each been putting in a few $100s per month each. I've known about this for years and didn't love the idea initially, which I expressed. But she was adamant she wanted this, and at the time we weren't hurting for the money, and it was ultimately her money and her decision. We are now looking to buy a home in one of the most expensive real estate markets in the US. She expresses that she doesn't have much in her savings but has $20K of her own money tied in with her friends' combined savings. Over the last year, they've been told by 2 financial advisors that 5 people attempting to invest together in real estate or stocks or a business wasn't a great idea. They also recommended splitting the funds into 5 separate accounts, since the account is under one of the friends' names and there are tax implications for having that amount of money in her name, $100K. The homes we're looking at need around $60 to $70K for a down payment. I stated I was willing to spend nearly all my savings on the down payment for a home, $50K. So I told her she should pull that money from her joint friends account to help with the down payment. It's a huge purchase and I don't think it should be my burden alone. She got really upset and told me, I don't want to touch that money. I promised my friends it would be for investing together. We should look for a less expensive home then, maybe a fixer. She then stated, it would be easier for you to accrue the money back since you make so much more. This was very frustrating and I told her, it's unfair, I have to spend nearly all my savings and you don't. Your friend fund is stupid, and it's stupid not to use that money for our future home. Am I the asshole for asking her to use her cash from her friend's account and break that promise to her friends so we can buy a nice home together? Story 16. My F28 ex-fiancé's M32 mom is furious about my Facebook post. Did I take it too far? So in short, my fiancé ended our relationship and cancelled our wedding. He told me on Sunday and left the following Wednesday while I was at work, and did not say goodbye. His parting words the night before he left was he felt like we fought too much and did not communicate well. Okay, this was not new, and while I knew he felt that we fought a lot, I didn't know he was ready to leave me. Settling all the wedding contracts, dealing with the honeymoon debt, being left with no car, and finally, taking on all the apartment expenses was left to me. I became crippled with depression and had to take some control back. I posted on Facebook that I needed help finding a couple to take our date with since the venue was withholding our total rental amount. I mentioned I was heartbroken, that I needed a couple, and how to get a hold of the venue. Well, 200+ shares later, my ex-mom steps into the picture. After seeing the hundreds of comments saying I'm better off, to sue him, etc. She finally sent me a text, 1 week after she helped move him out. She goes, "Op, I know you are upset and your feelings are hurt, but there are 2 sides to this story and I don't appreciate these posts of you or other people slandering my son when they don't know the whole story and you putting his full name out there. There are laws for slander and defamation of character. He helped pay for all of this wedding stuff too. Not just you. Hell, we even have helped pay for wedding stuff. This is something you and he need to work out, but if this continues I will step up and defend my son. Please be more respectful." My reply: ex-mother-in-law, this is between X and I. I understand you're feeling protective, but it is none of your business. Please keep your opinions to yourself. He is welcome to call me her. Wow, thank you for showing your true colors. I'm grateful he isn't marrying you. He deserves so much better. Me. Okay, I had felt like she just rubbed salt in the deepest wound I had. I have been unreasonable in our relationship, never passing boundaries like cheating or lying, gambling, etc. But I have been mean and controlling. And I wonder if, in this conversation, I took the boundary line too far. I know her son means the most to her. Hey there, amazing people. Get ready to smash that subscribe button on the YouTube channel and hit the bell icon to turn on notifications. Thank you so much for tuning in. I can't wait to catch you in the next video. Stay awesome.